So in this example, we are going to determine what type of shape we would expect to see in a histogram of the following data set. So we're going to think about those different shapes that we saw in the previous video and the previous pages and see what kind of data sets, shapes that we would see in our data sets. So college GPA from a random sample of students. So if we think about GPA, we would hope that in a college GPA we would tend to see more high GPAs. Right, this means that we would have a tail on the left. So if we think about the way our graph would look, the people that have low GPAs would be down here, and then we'd have more people that have high GPAs, right, and then maybe a smaller tail over there on the right. So since we have a tail on the left, this would be an example of a left skewed distribution. A symmetric group of SAT scores from a random sample of students. So in this case, we're told that it's symmetric, and we would expect that most of the students would be near the middle or the average. So that means we would have a few over here, we would have a good portion in the middle, and then a few that had very high SAT scores. Right? So this is an example of a bell-shaped symmetric distribution. Right, the last digit of Social Security numbers from a random sample of adults. We would assume that this would be a pretty random and even distribution. Right. So we would have something that's kind of like this. All of the different last digits would be represented pretty evenly. So this would be an example of a uniform symmetric distribution. Right. Income from a random sample of adults. In this case, we would expect more people to be lower to average income. Right, and just a few people that have a very high income level. This means we would have the tail on the right for those few people that have a very high income. Yeah, so we would see something that looks like this. So this would be an example of a right skewed distribution. Right, and the last but not least, data were collected on the finishing times of two different marathons. One marathon consisted of elite runners from the 2012 Olympic Games, while the other marathon included amateur runners. What shape would we expect the distribution of this sample to have? We would expect this sample to have one mode for each group. Right, the marathon runners we would expect to be a lot faster than the amateur runners. So we would end up with something that looks like a bimodal distribution. Right, so when we're thinking about our distributions, again, we're thinking about what type of shape would these distributions kind of take as we look at a large set of data in these examples.